The Canadian Rangers are a subcomponent of the Canadian Armed Forces Reserve that provide a military presence in Canada's sparsely settled, northern, coastal, and isolated areas. Formally established on May 23, 1947, a primary role of this part-time force is to conduct surveillance or sovereignty patrols as required. Some Canadian Rangers also conduct inspections of the North Warning System sites and act as guides, scouts, and subject matter experts in such disciplines as wilderness survival when other forces are in their area of operations. The Canadian Rangers are a volunteer force made up of Inuit, First Nations, Métis, and non-Aboriginals. However, it is a common misconception that the organization is a First Nations entity. The ethnic makeup of the numerous patrols across Canada is entirely an element of geography. Canadian Rangers are paid according to the rank they hold within the patrol and when present on operations or during training events. There are currently approximately 5,000 Rangers serving in various communities around Canada. History. Modern Canadian Rangers can trace the history back to the Pacific Coast Militia Rangers. Formed on March 3, 1942, the Pacific Coast Militia Rangers were volunteers who patrolled, performed military surveillance, and provided local defense of the coastline of British Columbia and in the Yukon against the wartime threat of a possible Japanese invasion. At the height, the Pacific Coast Militia Rangers consisted of 15,000 volunteers and 138 companies under three major patrol areas, which were Vancouver Island, the Lower Fraser Valley, and the Bridge River area. Some of the principal officers of the PCMR were Lieutenant Colonel C.W. Peck, Lieutenant Colonel A.L. Coote and Major H. Ashby. The Pacific Coast Militia Rangers were officially disbanded on September 30, 1945. Equipment. Each Canadian Ranger is issued a red Canadian Ranger sweatshirt, CADPAT pants, combat boots, baseball cap, safety vest, rifle and navigation aids. They are expected to be mostly self-reliant regarding equipment. However, they are also provided with a small amount of patrol-level stores. They are reimbursed for the use of personal vehicles and equipment and are paid for this use according to the nationally established equipment usage rates. Items that Canadian Ranger could be reimbursed for include snowmobiles, all-terrain vehicles, watercraft, trailers, pack horses, sled dog teams, and a variety of tools and equipment. Weapons. Canadian Rangers are issued the .303 British caliber Lee Enfield No. 4 rifle, with each user being provided with 200 rounds of ammunition every year, while the rest of the Canadian forces were getting Enfield rifles, Bren guns and Browning Inglis high-power pistols. The Rangers had to make do with what could be scrounged up, often patrolling with their own rifles and shotguns. This led Canadian purchasing agents to look to American sources for rifles. At the time, the most popular style of rifle in the North American West was the .30 WCF lever action. As such, purchases figured the Winchester 94/64 and Marlin 1936 would be easy for the Rangers to figure out, as they more than likely had experience with the type already. Promptly some 3,000 Winchesters and an estimated 1,800 Marlins were acquired direct from North Haven. Likely all the companies had on hand. Guns were issued out as needed to senior members of the companies, but stocks of .30 ammunition was so limited that only 6 rounds were issued with the rifle while the rest was locked up in the company's armory, typically in the vault of the local bank. While the bolt-action Lee Enfield has been out of general service in the Canadian military since the 1950s, it has proven to be reliable in the Arctic environment. Rifle replacement owing to the decreasing availability of spare parts. The replacement of the Lee Enfield rifle had long been expected, and in August 2011, after user requirements had been determined, the Canadian Forces officially issued a tender request for a bolt-action rifle compatible with 7.62 x 51 mm NATO and 308 Winchester ammunition. Approximately 10,000 rifles were to be bought, giving the system a service life of about 30 years, with project management provided by Director Land Resources, and the new rifles were to be manufactured under license by Colt Canada and to be in service by 2015. The tender was cancelled in October 2011. In 2014, a new tender was issued for replacement rifles with a selection competition in 2015 and the winning design entering service between 2015 and 2019. As of April 2015, Colt Canada has been selected to produce the rifle under license. 33 initial examples of the new rifle based on the finished Tika T3 compact tactical rifle will be delivered to 4CRPG in June 2015, while Canadian Ranger instructors from across all CRPGs can currently attend Train the Trainer training at the Small Arms section at the Combat Training Centre, CFB Gagetown, New Brunswick. Uncontrolled testing is scheduled with 100 rifles in Nunavut in August 2015, while controlled testing is scheduled for November 2015 in the British Columbia interior, facilitated by 4CRPG. The rifles have been tested to see if they would fire properly and remain accurate at temperatures as low as -51 degrees Celsius. They are expected to be able to stop all Arctic predators, specifically including polar bears. Feedback from the Rangers will be incorporated in the final production rifles. The new rifle features a detachable 10-round box magazine, iron sights calibrated from 100 to 600 meters, a laminated wooden stock, stainless steel construction with extra corrosion-resistant coatings, enlarged trigger guards and bolt handles, so they can be used by Rangers, without requiring them to remove the gloves. The barrel, bolt and receiver will be made by Colt Canada under license from SACO. In addition to the rifle, the accessories package will include a custom-molded Pelican hard transport case, plus a soft transport case. Both hard case and soft case and rifle buttstock feature the Canadian Ranger crest. Associate Minister of National Defence Julian Fantino announced that the DND planned to buy 6,820 rifles, including development costs, spare parts, 2 million rounds of ammunition. The rifles are expected to cost $28 million. Chain of command. The Canadian Rangers became part of the Canadian Army in October 2007, having previously been under the Vice Chief of the Defence Staff for the Canadian Forces. The commander of the Canadian Army is the Canadian Ranger National Authority. The commander of the Canadian Army has a small cadre of CRNA staff in Ottawa. These CRNA staff act as a conduit for information, assist with general development and improvement, assist in generating, modifying, and maintaining policy which addresses the unique nature of the Canadian Rangers, and with the financing of the Canadian Rangers. These staff are not directly within the chain of command, but are instead seen as the technical and advisory link between the Canadian Ranger units and the commander of the Canadian Army. Command and control of the respective Canadian Ranger units has devolved from the commander of the Canadian Army down to his subordinate commanders of the various regional divisions. There are 5 CRPGs and each CRPG corresponds to one of the regional divisions. The CRPGs tend to be provincially oriented, apart from one CRPG, which covers the whole of northern Canada north of the 60th parallel, and 4 CRPG which covers the 4 western provinces. Each CRPG has a headquarters and a number of patrols, albeit that 4 CRPGs patrols are managed within a company construct, with provincially oriented companies each commanding their own patrols. The patrols tend to be centered on remote communities throughout Canada and are frequently named after the town or village they are from. Patrol areas. There are 5 main patrol areas of the Canadian Ranges. Each patrol area is directly controlled by the headquarters unit of a Canadian Ranger Patrol Group, a CRPG. Junior Canadian Rangers. The Junior Canadian Rangers program was created on May 31, 1996, and consists of more than 3,400 members in 119 locations. Under the supervision of the Canadian Rangers, the Junior Canadian Ranger program is open to young Canadians, from ages 12 to 18.